Welcome to Book Watch, the podcast where pages meet screens. I'm your host, Sarah Day. Each week, I'll be joined by amazing guests to dive deep into the world of adaptations, comparing beloved books with their cinematic counterparts. From faithful retellings to bold reimaginings, we'll break down what worked, what didn't, and what made each adaptation unforgettable. Whether you're a bookworm, a movie buff, or both, you are in the right place. So grab your bookmark, grab your popcorn, and let's watch some books. Welcome back, listeners. Excited to talk about practical magic tonight. I have Chris Hitlett joining me again. Welcome back, Chris.
Hello, thank you for having me again.
Absolutely. So we are covering practical magic, which has, the film at least, has become a cult classic, especially among fans of the witchy, feminine-centered stories. While the film received mixed reviews on release, it found new life as a beloved fall favorite. Its blend of sisterhood, grief, and magic inspired modern witch aesthetics and continues to influence pop culture like social media's witchcore trends. The story celebrates womanhood, resilience, and the bond between sisters in a world that often fears feminine power. The book was written in 1995 by Alice Hoffman. The audiobook was narrated by Christina Moore. There is an abridged version, which is narrated by somebody else. But why would you listen to the abridged version? The film was directed by Griffin Dunne, and it was adapted by Robin Swicord, Akiva Goldsman, and Adam Brooks in 1998. So, Chris, what is your history with practical magic?
So I didn't watch it when it first came out at all. I didn't even know it existed. I have been aware of it since I got married or even before that a little bit when I was dating my wife for about 15 years now, I think it is. And she is always trying to get me to watch it and be interested in it with her and spend the holidays, watching these old cult classics. And I never got into it with her. And so when I said I was going to do this one with you, she's like, oh my gosh, does that mean we get to watch Practical Magic? And I said, well, let me read the book first. But then we finally did. And she was super excited because it's been one of her favorites for a long, long time. So,
and I'm interested to talk to you about this because you read the book first, but I, like your wife, grew up watching Practical Magic and did not read the book until getting ready for this episode. So it'll be interesting to see your thoughts on book to film because I definitely have lots of thoughts on the differences. And it was not what I was expecting at all. So I'm excited to get into it. So as I mentioned at the top, some of the key themes are sisterhood and family bonds, love and loss, female empowerment, the legacy of the past, and magic versus normalcy. And I think both book and film really touched on those key themes. But what was really interesting to me, the book, magic was more of a background character, whereas in the movie, the magic plays a much bigger part.
Yeah, they had to make magic have more of that spectacle, I feel like, in the movie, and it had to be that like almost wiggle your nose and something happens, a little bit of the Sabrina the Teenage Witch style, or Bewitched style magic. I felt like, even though you never see that fully, it kind of felt that way to me.
Yes, like the blowing the candle to turn it on,
or the little seance to with the body, putting the pentagram on his chest and all that,
which doesn't happen in the book, and we'll get to that. Yes, which was very surprising to me. And again, that whole, like, the death of Jimmy is so much more, again, just like subtle. It just happens, and then that's it. And then it comes back in the end a little bit when we get introduced to Gary. But I mean, that was pretty much the main plot point of the film.
Right. And the book definitely has a lot more consequences of all of that. I feel like that you don't see, you see things happening a little bit with like the family feeling it a little bit, but
Mhm.
not nearly the experience that everybody has in the book.
Yeah, I felt like the book was a lot more thoughts and feelings than action, which the movie, of course, a movie has to be a little bit more action, and the there was relationships in the book, but um the movie changed that significantly, cut a whole character and relationship out of the book.
Which was my favorite character in the whole book, and like my favorite interaction even was that healing relationship there and the way that went. So
Mhm.
with um
Ben.
Ben, and yeah, so I was
Yes.
really sad to not see him in the film at all, and would have loved to have gotten that experience. But I understand they have to cut things in films for time a lot of times too, and that relationship would have
Mhm.
been a lot of investment to get there.
And it would have been, I mean, it could have been a really interesting, I mean, it would, a rom-com usually only focuses on one relationship, and they chose to do Sally and Gary, and we'll get into the characters in a moment, but it would have been interesting to see how they did the two relationships between Jillian and
Hmm.
Ben, and then Sally and Gary. And then, I mean, even the daughters had relationships in the book, which they were much younger in the film, which, so having relationships in the film would not have worked. But
Right.
yeah, just the fact that they focused on one relationship, and which I think you need to do for a rom-com, but it just would have been interesting to see if all of the relationships were in, or maybe like a TV show could have done it better,
That's true.
or like had more time to delve into the different relationships. But it was very
I
interesting, the
was
differences in
surprised.
that.
I was surprised by the lack of like she didn't move out of the aunt's house at all.
Right.
Sally, I thought that was weird because I was like, this happens in a whole different city. This was her establishing herself before all this stuff happens to her, and then she grows to accept the aunts because of that. So having them
Well,
still live there was interesting to me.
I feel like a good chunk of the book was condensed to the first
Hmm.
10 minutes of the film. Like they really condensed a lot of the history of the sisters and Sally's relationship with Michael, if I'm remembering the name correctly. And then it did feel like they had moved away. I don't know if it was a different city, but once Michael passed, she did move back in the with the aunts,
Right.
but she didn't move back in with the aunts in the book. They don't come back until the very end of the book.
Right. They live with them, and then after he dies, they move away, and the girls get raised without them for a while.
Yes. Yeah,
So,
very different. But it was nice to see the aunts have a bigger role
mhm.
consistently throughout the film. But we're talking about all the characters, so let's dive into our characters, and then we can talk about all of the plot points. So,
Sounds
of
good.
course, first up, we have Sally Owens, played by the wonderful Sandra Bullock. What did you think of Sandra's performance of Sally?
She was just a little baby. It was weird seeing young Sandra Bullock there, but if as someone
Both.
who didn't watch this, and yeah, both of them being that young, but
Yes.
I thought she did a really good job with that role. I thought that she had the right emotional distance, but still was filling that role of the more responsible uh,
Yes.
sister of the two. And I mean, I don't see that from Sandra Bullock a lot of times. I feel like she's usually the crazy one in things, but
Yeah, she's usually more the comedic route.
mhm,
But that brings us to Nicole Kidman, who plays her sister, Gillian Owens, who is the more, you know,
the
free
free spirit, yeah.
of the, yes, free spirited of the two sisters. So I really thought those two actresses nailed the sisters.
Yeah, I agree. That was a good balance between them. They played off each other well. They felt like sisters to me.
Yeah, I agree. So then the aunts are next. Which are played, and I don't think they're named until they come back at the end. I might be mistaken, but in the majority of the book, they're just referred to as the aunts. And they are played by Stalker Channing and Diane West. And that is Aunt Frances and Aunt Jet.
Yeah, they were good. I thought they were decent representations. I feel like the book version of them wasn't as it was had more stakes to them in some ways, but it was also not as fleshed out in some ways too. Like I think they did a good job with them in the book in the movie.
Yeah, I liked all the added kind of comedic relief that the
Hmm.
aunts brought to it. And I did like the bigger role they played in the film, especially with Sally's first relationship, and then letting them try to let the sisters figure out, their problems are on their own, and then coming back in the nick of time.
Knowing
I just
something's
thought,
wrong and yeah,
yes, yeah,
let your
and
kids
just
struggle.
again, the way they used magic in the movie, I just really liked how it was portrayed.
Mhm.
So okay, our antagonist, Jimmy Angelov, played by Goran Visnik. I doubt I pronounced that last name correctly.
Close enough.
But I mean, we don't really see him alive at all in the book.
There's a few moments of her talking about the things that would happen, and so for me, I didn't feel like the visualization of him fit what I was thinking of, but I
Hmm.
feel like they got the point across. He was there, but I picture a more the pretty boy in some ways, a rough and tumble pretty boy, a Hemsworth or something, but just with a
Okay,
really really bad attitude or something. Just someone that was a little more that can get whoever they want, but they treat them poorly, sort of thing.
interesting. Yeah, I having seen the film first, I pictured the actors as the characters. So
Right.
that is very interesting to hear you say that because he is Goran. If I'm pronouncing that right, that's definitely who I pictured as I was reading the book.
Yeah, and I'm noticing that reading the book first of most things, I'm finding myself liking the book a lot more than the movie in a lot of cases lately.
Always.
But
That was gonna be one of my questions to see, like, if you did think, because for me, no, I didn't like the book because I grew up on the movie and it's so different. And there's like I don't know if I just wasn't paying attention, but I felt like there's not a lot of dialogue. There's so much of the author kind of telling the history. Like we get introduced to a new character and we're told their history and like how everything's kind of connected, which I did like in the book, how everything was connected in those ways. But the long drawn out histories just kind of kept pulling me out of the book.
yeah, and I think the book for me, it told a much more complete story. I felt like when I watched the movie afterwards, I was like, you're missing so much of the depth of all these characters. Everything here
Hmm.
has a story, yeah, and it is a story that fits a '90s rom com to me, but it doesn't
Right.
have the emotional depth or the story depth that I liked out of the book.
Right. And it's, worth it to note again that this movie did not do well when it first came out. And I can totally see why. Like it is not a great film in the sense of, like Oscar worthiness.
Right.
Um, but like it has become a cult classic and like our generation especially is like the nostalgic generation. So we grew up watching this film every October. So yeah, it definitely hits those good feelings.
I
But
thought the next
going
characters were interesting though, because they're actresses that have actually gotten some more. At least the Evan Rachel Woods
right,
has got a lot more uh, well known now than she would have been as a child there. So
right,
I know I
and
skipped one, but
yes. So Gary Hallett is the officer played by Aidan Quinn. Shows up a lot quicker in the film than in the book. Um,
and in the book, I think his story makes a lot more sense too because they build a part of him from a history of his grandfather getting struck by lightning and all this stuff that was a through line from everything else
mhm.
and gives him a reason for why he's so honest, why he wants to do the right thing always, why he ended up chasing down this guy all the way over here.
And it was nice to see in the book, like, the history between Jimmy and Gary, because you didn't really get that in the film as much. I mean, that he's looking for Jimmy, but in the book, we get this whole backstory about the drugs and the college kids that died because of the drugs, and that is why he wanted to hunt Jimmy down.
Yeah, it felt a lot more felt more earned in a lot of ways.
Right, exactly. So Kylie and Antonia are the daughters of Sally Owens, and they are played Kylie by Evan Rachel Wood, which you mentioned is a more well known actress, and then Alexandra Artrip plays Antonia. Now, in the book, it seems like the ages were like, first of all, they're much older in the book, but also Kylie and Tonya are switched in
Yeah.
the movie. Antonia is older in the book, but she is younger in the film,
Right.
which was
And
an interesting kind of pointless
I don't know that it
change.
changed anything. It probably just fit better with the actresses that got to play him, and so that didn't bother me at all. But
Yeah, it didn't bother me either. Reading the book, it was just interesting to see how much bigger of a role they had, and they had their own relationships as well.
and I mean, I liked the relationship between Jillian and Kylie having that, like, the 13th birthday party where she cuts off all her hair and decides to, go blonde or whatever what the story
Mhm.
was there. I thought that was something that was missing a little bit. That would have been nice to get a little more of that tension between Sally and Jillian, but we didn't have that long a time frame in the
Right.
movie to go there. You don't
Yes.
see that time pass.
Yeah, it was, and just to see, yeah, like you said, the tension between the sisters and that family dynamic. Um, I'm gonna mention two other characters, but they are well. We'll start with Maria Owens. Very small part, but also such a significant role
Mhm.
in the family. So she is like the first Owens, and the curse started with her. And in the film, she is played by Caprice Benedetti. And then our second character is Ben, who is in the relationship with Jillian in the book, and then of course not in the film whatsoever.
The science teacher
Yes.
that every kid was in love with, apparently.
And it was a nice little storyline to
And the
see
rabbit.
Jillian's, yes, and the sweet little rabbit, to see Jillian's kind of progress, going from Jimmy to Ben.
Right. And the way my wife saw the movies was as there was a physical curse that had to be broken.
Mhm.
And I think they might mention that a little bit there in the end of the film. Whereas in the book, I didn't see it as an actual curse. I felt it was more just a generational legacy that they felt like they had to feel this way, had to do these things this way, and they had to overcome that a little bit.
Yeah,
But um,
right,
either
exactly.
way, I think they see it as a curse, and it can still be feel that superstition in a family sometimes. And
Well, and that just goes back to how the magic is just, well, okay. The book gives the name practical magic. It makes more sense than it does in the film because it's literally just there as a part of their lives. It's very subtle. Like you said, there's no spells and visual magic. So I think that's the curse is representative is that, well, it's just there. It's generational. And it's not like something physical, like you said, that they have to break like they do in the film.
right, and the ants are giving little, like, community advice sort of magic, more of a superstitious, here, put this under your pillow, kill this bird and it'll do this for you, but it's nothing that really feels like we're making us casting this spell on you and making this happen. Whereas even that's more put on to Sally in the movie, where she has her own little shop selling the remedies
Mhm.
and stuff that are more that practical magic.
Exactly. Yes. So we can get into the plot points now. We've sort of been talking about that throughout our conversation already, but the opening again, I mentioned it was very condensed in the film compared to what we get in the book. And again, the aunts are much more fleshed out as individual characters. And then something that the movie added, speaking on the curse, is the whole death beetle, and like how that's the representation of the curse. Now, they do mention hearing the beetle in the book, but it's not as much of a representation of this curse, and it doesn't have the whole kind of flashback play out.
There's a bit more of, like, it's a superstitious thing, so they hear a beetle and that
Yes.
points towards that's what's causing this, or what the sign that this is coming. Not so much that it's going to cause his death, but this is something that's coming. There was the black dog waiting by the gate. There's a whole bunch of different signs that were superstitious things that probably wouldn't mean anything to most people, but because the
Hmm.
ants were so in tune with it, they knew this is coming.
Yes.
So
Um, so we go through the opening, and we're introduced to all these characters. But then the catalyst of the story is Jimmy's death. Now, a big change in Jimmy's death is who kills Jimmy. In the book, Gillian arrives at Sally's home and Jimmy is already dead. And she thinks that she killed him. Turns out at the end, it was not actually her and the belladonna, but she did think it was her. Now, in the movie, she calls Sally for help and Sally goes to her aid. Then they're kidnapped by Jimmy. And then the whole scene in the car with the belladonna, which I do love that scene. So I was um, again, that visual magic of them kind of reading each other's minds. Um, and then so Sally is actually the one that kills Jimmy with the belladonna. And then we have an entire resurrection scene that is not in the book,
right, we
only
can
to
bring him
kill him
back.
again. Right. So, what did you think? So, for me, this was jarring reading the book because I thought bringing Jimmy back was going to be a theme in the
Part of the
book. Even when Gillian came and he was already dead, I thought that we would still get some sort of resurrection, but we didn't. And I was a little sad to see Sally not be a part, like not go to her rescue, because it's just part of that sisterly bond that we get from the film. But what did you think on the flip side?
I see it in the same light, but the opposite way. I think that her showing up there and asking for her sister's help shows that sisterly bond the same way. She knew this was her safe place she could come to. And I think not resurrecting him shows more of that practical magic instead of
Mm-hmm.
we're witches who can do all sorts of things, including bring the dead back. And
Right.
but I think for a visual, it made a lot of sense of, oh, we can have some fun letting these sisters do what they thought they saw as a kid and in the
Right.
books and make this happen as just a fun little thing they can do while they've, just killed someone and they want to try to change the story.
Mm-hmm.
So it gave a good visual story point. So I didn't mind it. I didn't enjoy it as much as I liked the story path in the book.
Have you had a lot of these conversations with your wife too? So since she also grew up watching the film,
Yeah,
and has she read the book?
she has not read the book, and
Okay.
so for her, this was all we were watching it, and I was just ruining it the whole way through for her, going like,
Oh, I
"That's not how
bet.
that happens. That's that's not right. That's not right." But she's used to that from me because anything that I read, which is most stuff that's coming out, I tend to
Mhm.
tell her the little footnotes of it as we're going, like, "Oh, that's not how that happens in the book. That's not how that happens." So
So I was doing the same thing. My husband has not read the book or seen the film.
okay,
Um, and so I made him watch it with me, but he still hadn't read the book. But I was like, hey, I have to watch this for the podcast. Watch it with me because you've never seen it. And his sister also grew up watching it, so
okay,
he's been around it. But yes, I was doing the same thing as we were watching the film. I was like, oh, wait, that didn't happen in the
that's
book, or
different.
that's different than the book.
Now,
We
I'm
can't help
assuming this will be
ourselves.
one you show to your girls at some point. Have they seen it yet, or are they
No, not
okay? They're young,
yet.
so I know.
Yeah, I mean, we did Agatha all along, um, and I'm surprised that they handled that as well as they did, but
That'll
this
have
is
to
a
wait.
little darker than Agatha all along, so I'll wait maybe a few more years to show them this one, but I am
You
excited to
you would
add
be
this to the
curious to see
lineup.
how they like it. Adds another generation down of away
Yes.
from what is a cult classic to you. Might not be as fun for them, or it might be super fun if they see you enjoying
Yeah.
it.
I mean, they're both really into witches, so I think that this would be one of the ones that they like. But yeah, we'll probably a
That'll
few
have to be
years.
a
Maybe when the second one comes out, maybe we'll
oh yeah,
see
sure,
how
next year when
mature
that
they are. Yeah, they're only my youngest is turning 4, and then my oldest is 5. So I think they're still a tad young for
there you
practical
go.
magic,
But
but
then
we'll see.
you can have the sisterly bond lessons all the way
I
through it.
know, and I'm an only child, so it will be interesting to see how they feel about the themes of this book as opposed to me because I'm like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
sure, sisterly bond, cool." I don't know
Well,
what
my
that is.
family was 4 kids and then 2 step siblings, so I had lots of bonds,
Wow,
but
big
not
family,
necessarily
yeah.
you bond with 1 or 2 of those,
Mhm.
really close, and even then that I don't know that I have quite the bond of as, just siblings, which 1 and 2 siblings, get a lot closer than a big family and my wife's an only
Yeah, I
child, so
think.
she doesn't know that either. So
Ah, yeah. So okay, so Demi's death. And then I guess the next part is just kind of like the haunting and then the investigation. And again, this all happens much quicker in the film because there's less time. And correct me if I'm wrong, the book kind of spans several years, right?
I think after he dies, it's about a year and a half, a year, because she has
Okay.
her 13th birthday, and then it's mostly during that year of her 13th,
Her
her being
13th birthday.
13,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
her starting to realize that she's got this power of being able to see the auras and see the
Mm-hmm.
um, his spirit standing in the yard, which
Mm-hmm.
was really interesting. That she sees him and just doesn't say anything for a while, and just sees, oh, there's that guy standing in the yard still.
Yes. And that was interesting because it was Kylie in both the book and the film
Hmm.
that saw the spirit. But again, Kylie's younger in the book and she's older, played by Evan Rachel Wood in the film.
Right.
But like as I was reading that scene of her seeing him out in the garden, I totally pictured Evan Rachel Wood's character looking out the window from the film because that's like one of the iconic, I guess, for lack of a better word, parts of that film is his ghost out there.
Hmm. And I think that the way they handled it in the film was fine. I didn't bother me the way he was haunting them, but I think that all the little things meant a lot more in the book too. Like they weren't talking, so they weren't seeing that all this stuff was cumulative and
Hmm.
all happening because there was something wrong.
Right. And I like all the little things that happen, like the frog having the ring and the ring showing up. And um, I think the boots even was in the book. And then there were some lines that I noticed that were word for word from the
Mhm.
book to the film. Jillian, she's in the car. Once I think they've already killed Jimmy, she says something that was taken right out of the book. And then there were some other little things, little lines that were taken right out of the book, which I really appreciated.
I always enjoy that. Yeah, when you get to see, oh, hey, that was the thing. They said the thing.
Um, so before we get to the exorcism that happens in the movie and not the film, is there any other points of the book that you'd like to discuss before we kind of start wrapping up the story?
I think that the like we've talked about, the relationship between Ben and Jillian really did
Yeah.
have a lot of healing elements to it that I really wish were there. That was her going from "I killed him, I deserve to suffer" to "I can move on from this, I can recover. I'm not the person I thought I was growing up. That I created this image of someone of myself being this person that doesn't deserve love." To I can also have a good life and be loved. I just should have
Yeah.
waited for the right person to really give me that experience fully the way I want it.
And again, I love the contrast between Ben and Jimmy and just seeing what she was used to and seeing what she could have.
Yeah, I think I wrote down maybe I don't have it here. There was a line in the here it is. Uh, oh, I didn't write it down. Okay. Well, there's a line she says in the book that I thought almost meant to write down today. That was something along the lines of "I do deserve love," and or no, it's the last line of the book is something along the lines of "love as much as possible." Um, I'll have to look it up, but it was definitely like that. Kind of does sum up the whole story and really is the good point of the whole thing.
Yeah, and that again, that's like the difference of the book and the film is like the book was a lot more um like realistic, the magic, more magical undertones. And it again, I'm reading little notes that I had written out. The book is more about love and loss, guilt and forgiveness, family and belonging. Whereas, of course, Hollywood, and especially in the 90s Hollywood, the magic is visual and literal. It's whimsical, romantic, dramatic, gothic horror. So, again, I think if they were to do it today, if they weren't doing the sequel and they were just rebooting it as a TV show, I think we would get a lot more of those guilt and forgiveness themes and love and loss themes that
It
the
does seem
book.
more like the modern, yeah, way of telling a
Yeah.
story more so than the. way the '90s
Mhm.
told rom-com stories.
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
Um, so then let's get into the exorcism that, they added for you have to have a climax in a film, um, and, I think you do kind of get the, like, community so you get the sisterly bond by the way they break the curse, but then all of the women are coming together, that have been looking at the sisters as outcasts throughout the whole film, and they come
right.
together and join forces and help the situation, which, is really nice.
A little bit of a women helping women story that is in there,
Yeah,
but it kind of felt a little bit like Agatha looking for her coven, and in that show too. To me, I was like, oh,
exactly.
it's just grab whoever we can find from the town, and we'll make ourselves a coven.
Yes. Yes, exactly, but, it worked, and I think it's just cool because both, like, Agatha and in Practical Magic, and I think actually in the movie, somebody even says there's a little bit of witch in all of us, which is really cool to think about. We all have a little magic in us, we just have to find it.
Exactly. Yeah. And in the book, I actually really liked that storm and all everything that was coming at the time, and the way that the
Yeah.
family comes together as their little unit when the ants come into town and
Yes.
help them deal with things. Once they finally ask for help, they get what the help they need when the ants help them dispose of the spirit and help cleanse the house so they can have their nice uh, life here in the town, and they grow to actually see, oh, you guys are here to help, we are
Mhm.
family, and we can do this all together. I feel like.
Exactly, yeah, and
And
I
Ben
do
shows
so
up and
yes.
everybody
Um
comes together.
Yeah, so and both the book and the film, you have everybody coming together to defeat the spirit of Jimmy. It's just, the movie is a little bit more extreme in that. But
Chanting and rocking and
yeah. Yes, and then the white light that breaks the curse.
right.
um, so let's talk a little bit about some things that were cut. Um And well, we kind of already talked about how magic played a bigger role in the film, and that was added from the book. Again, like it's just practical magic in the book. But the book also focuses a little bit more on Sally's daughters as adults, which we don't get to see in the film. We don't really get any epilogue in the film. Um, Now we do have a sequel coming out. Do you think where do you think the sequel is gonna fall? We don't have a lot of information on the sequel, so do you think we're gonna kind of get some of this anything from Practical Magic the book in the sequel, or do you think her other books are gonna be what the sequel is about?
Well, the Practical Magic books have like two more sequels that come after it, and like one or two that come before it. So there is a lot more in a series of stuff here. That the way my wife described it is the one of them is a sequel that talks about the girls. One of them actually is the storyline of the ants from the prequels, and so
Ooh,
there could be some fun stuff you could do there. I almost would do a double story, tell both of them at the same time, do that whole back and forth storyline where you tell part of the
like the
past, part of the
aunt's
future.
story and then the
Yeah, I would
daughter's
tell them both at the
future?
same time and have them
Love
tie together
that.
in some way.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Because she's talked about how there was always two daughters or two girls that become this pair of witches that is, and she hasn't read the books, but she apparently got that impression from uh, understanding
Oh.
something about the movie or at the time or something that it's
Yeah,
always
I mean,
two
that
and it's
totally makes
always the
sense. There's the
storyline.
aunts, there's Gillian and Sally, and then there's
Hmm.
Sally's daughters. So yeah, that totally
And
makes
so there could
sense.
be some interesting future lines there. And it would be cool to see the girls having broken the curse actually experiencing life in a more stable manner, but then also still having shenanigans and stuff that comes up because of that.
Yeah.
Either
I
it's
mean, they're still witches, yeah.
helping
But
the
now that
ants
you
figure
say
out
that
something.
it
Yeah.
now that you say that the aunts have a storyline, Joey King and Macy Williams are cast in the film, and a lot of people speculated that they were gonna be the adult Sally's daughters, so the adult Kylie and Antonia. But now I'm thinking they could actually be the aunts in
Yeah.
the past. Because we really like any of the behind the scenes set photos that we've seen. is really just Sally and Gillian together. We haven't seen them interacting with anybody else at this time. So they totally could do what you're saying and do the two different timelines, and I would love that.
And even, I mean, the biggest thing for a sequel movie at this point is you have to get the cast, the popular cast of Sally
Right.
and um, Gillian in
Gillian.
there. So you've got to have those Sandra Bullock and Nicole Kidman in there because that's what's going to bring people out to the theater
Yeah.
again. So maybe it's the ants because you can have something happening. Well, either both stories would be central to them in some way. You'd have them as the generation right above and the generation right below. You could absolutely have them tie into both stories. So
Mhm. Yeah.
kind of fun.
Well, it'll be fun to see as we get more information on the film, what's going to be happening there and who Joey and Maisie are playing.
Hmm. That will be interesting.
So talk to me a little bit about what you think of overall picture and the changes that the film made from the book. And did the changes kind of streamline the story, or did they kind of weaken it?
In my opinion, I think they weakened it a bit. I think it became a very 90s story that didn't have a lot of depth, but I think it was ultimately fun. I enjoyed it. I did like the movie, but I do think that it was weakened from losing some of those paths they could have gone down.
I agree. Although as much as I love the film, um, again, I think that if it wasn't a sequel, I think doing a reboot and focusing more on their relationships would have been nice to see in a show.
Yeah.
So let's move on to our bookmarked moments. And for the first bookmarked moment, what do you like the best about the movie adaptation?
I think that some of the visuals of witchy things like the pentagram on the chest in whip topping is a fun little added feature that I would never thought of that, but they put that on there. I'm like, oh, that's a fun thing to visualize,
Mhm.
and using that in which tradition instead of a more traditional material
Right.
as
And
one
then
of my
she takes a
favorites.
little
Yeah,
bite of
gets a
it.
little lick off of it. Yeah, I think that was one of my favorite scenes, even though the exorcism didn't make sense to me from the book side. I was like, okay, that's fun.
Right.
What about
Um,
you?
what was your least favorite part of the movie adaptation?
I think hmm, just the lack of depth to the relationships between um, without some of the extra characters and stuff, the missing relationships that I was expecting to see that weren't there. Either Ben and also the girls growing up and having their jobs
Mhm.
that had reasons. The seeing them support each other through the chase scene where she's scared. I think it was Kylie scared that she
Yes.
was going to get taken by those guys, and
Mhm.
her sister supporting her through that was really
Yes.
interesting.
Mhm.
That built a really deep connection that we didn't see in the movie.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that is yeah, I mean, we don't really get to know the sisters, the daughters at all really in the film. And I think again that's because they're so young,
Hmm.
and the film is
And you
really
didn't want to
focused
have
on
to
Jillian and
cast more
Sally.
actresses, so you can
Mhm.
keep to the young ones that people are going to grow with as the story goes there, and it makes more
Mhm.
sense that way. But it was sad to not see some of those
Yep,
things.
and I also agree that missing Ben from the film is a tragedy because again, like, it's just a lot of growth for Jillian, and again, from going from, um, Jimmy to Ben is
Hmm.
just a really great growth for her as a character, so, I do wanna see because I don't know if, um, Aidan Quinn is cast in the sequel, so it's going to be interesting to see where the 2 girls are in their lives,
Hmm.
at this point and how much time has passed in the film, in their life in the film.
It's
Um,
been 30 years, so in real
yeah,
life,
I know.
so
So it's like, has 30 years passed in the film or,
it certainly
where are we
hasn't for
going to
Sandra
be?
Bullock, but
I know. She does look good. Okay, so last bookmarked moment. What was the most memorable moment of the book or the film?
The most memorable moment in the book would probably be my. Do you have one in mind? Let me think for a sec.
I think for me, the thing that stood out the most was Ben as a character because the movie is really about it is about Gillian and Sally, but then it's also about Sally and um Gary. And so to see that there was this whole character that was cut from the book that had a relationship with Gillian was just very jarring for me reading the book. And I think that's what really stood out to me the most.
I think he would have been my most memorable from the book as well, but I've been talking about him so much, that relationship so
Yeah.
much, that I figured that was I should come up with something else, and then I couldn't. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, it
his
is. It's,
relationship, him waiting, uh, being so patient with her, waiting to get into that point where she was ready to accept a relationship,
yes.
and then the rabbit being there to keep her engaged when he was worried she was going to run was like, oh, that's cute. And then how much she builds that interest in what he's interested in. She starts reading the science books, and so much of that part of her grows because she's with the right person that she can feel comfortable with.
And I like the part also about the rabbit where I believe it's when the aunts come and he comes over and he's thinking about how the rabbit is home alone and he's going to be coming home to a mess because he's staying with Jillian instead of going home to take care of the rabbit. And so he's like the
He's gonna eat
rabbit's
my
going to like
boots, but
shred, yeah, eat the boots or eat a magazine and stuff like that. So
it was
the
worth
rabbit
it.
does have a really nice role in the book, doesn't he?
And
um,
he was actually might be the title character, since he was a magician. He was a close up magic magician. So
yeah.
he's the actual practical magic of the whole story.
So Lee Pace is cast in the Practical Magic sequel. And as much as I like the idea of us going back and forth between the aunts and Sally's daughters, um, because the original film focused on Sally and Gary, maybe this film will be focusing on Jillian and Ben, and they could be playing we could be seeing this relationship play out in this film. Um,
That could be kind of fun.
yeah. So we still get both relationships just in two different films. But again, with having Joey King and Maisie Williams, it's going to be interesting to see what happens here. So
And they very well might not go off of any of the existing
that is
content
very
either. They
true
might
as
just tell a new
well.
story, and that
Yep.
would be okay. But there is so much content to go off of that I haven't read all
Yeah,
the
I
other
mean,
books
there's
yet
what
either. So
four or books or five books.
yeah, I think it was
There's
something like
quite a few
that.
books.
Yeah,
Yeah.
2 prequels and
Um,
2 sequels or something like that.
Right. So, anything else you want to talk about before we hop off?
A lot of the big topics of this thing, like I felt like, was superstition and the whole thing. Are you a
Yes.
superstitious person?
Me?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah. So like the things showing up, meaning different meanings of things, the moon getting its rings, all that means
Mhm.
a lot more if you actually buy into the idea. And so that's why I was curious how you feel about
Yes. And I
all
actually
that
look
and
at
is it
the
sensation?
rings about the moon, not only from Practical Magic, but Legolas in the Lord of the
Hmm.
Rings says something about, like a red blue moon rises or something like that.
Oh yeah.
Like blood has been spilt this night. Not that I think blood has been spilled, but yeah, I definitely look at the moon and the auras that the moon is giving off. And I'm not as scared of black cats as, some people with superstitions would be, but if I spill salt, I throw it over my shoulder. I won't walk under a ladder. Um,
I spilled an entire container of salt the other day, and I got that question a few times. Did you toss that over your
you
shoulder and
just got to
everything?
toss it over your shoulder. Just a little bit is all
I'm like,
you need.
I don't know if I did. I was too busy cleaning up a giant mess, but I probably should have. That's probably where all my problems are coming from in life.
Yeah. And we might talk about this more. You are joining me as well as Jordan, who did our Percy Jackson coverage. We're going to do a fun Halloween episode because we have 5 Fridays in October. So we might talk about ghosts in that episode. But speaking of superstitions, do you believe in ghosts?
Not overly, but I'm open to the idea of it. I'm definitely
Okay.
not much of a horror, scary movie person at all, and so I'm interested to be a part of that episode because it's not something I dig into too deep, but I'm
Mhm.
always willing to talk about it and dig into the different spiritual sides of it. I think that I've always liked the idea of a spiritual realm, but I don't
Mhm.
know that how much I buy into it or not.
Sure. Okay. Interesting.
I'm a skeptic.
My
So,
husband is as well. I am not. I believe in ghosts. I have seen ghosts. So, yeah. But we can
perfect.
get into that. So
That'll
stay
be fun.
tuned,
Yep.
listeners.
Tune in next time.
Yes. So actually, listeners, next week we will be doing, Jordan is joining me for Dracula and Nosferatu. And then, yes, Chris, you will be back along with Jordan for our Halloween bonus episode. And it's Halloween is on Friday, so I'm so excited that this Halloween is my favorite holiday. So this worked out really well this year.
Perfect. This will be fun.
But do you want to let listeners know where they can find you online?
You can follow me on Instagram or most social things at Cyborg Knight 404. I don't post much, but I may start adding more to that soon, and I'm always happy to share with and talk with people about books and films or whatever else on those platforms. So,
And that
um,
is Night with a K, right?
yes, that is Night with a K.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me for Practical Magic, and I will see you in a couple weeks.
See you in a couple weeks. Thank you. Bye.
That's a wrap for today's episode of Book Watch. I hope you enjoyed this journey into the world of page-to-screen adaptations. If you loved today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, review wherever you listen to podcasts, and share it with your fellow book and movie lovers. If you'd prefer to watch along, you can check the show out on YouTube. You can follow the show on Instagram at Bookwatch Podcast, and you can follow me, Sarah Day, on Instagram at captain.mcdee. That's MCDEE. You can also join the conversation in the Bookwatch Lounge on Facebook at www.facebook.com/groups/bookwatchlounge. If you would like to support the podcast, you can join the Patreon at www.patreon.com/bookwatchpodcast. Tiers start at only $4 a month, and I'd love to have you over there. If you have a favorite adaptation you'd like to cover with me, I'd love for you to apply to be on the show with the contact form on our website at www.bookwatchpodcast.com. Until next time, keep reading, keep watching, and I'll see you next week.